The silent invasion. The Vraxian ship entered Earth's atmosphere under the cover of a meteor shower, its advanced cloaking technology rendering it invisible to the primitive detection systems of the humans. Commander Kelthar stood at the bridge view screen, mandibles clicking with satisfaction as their vessel descended toward the blue planet below. Preliminary infiltration reports, Sub-Commander. Kelthar asked, his voice a low, rumbling vibration that echoed through the command deck. Sub-Commander Van Lara stepped forward, her exoskeletal plates gleaming under the ship's ambient lighting. Optimal, Commander. Our genetic engineers have perfected the human disguises. The first wave of infiltrators has successfully integrated into key human population centers. No detection so far. Kelthar nodded, his four eyes blinking in sequence, a gesture of approval among the Vraxians. The High Council was right. These humans are technologically primitive and genetically simple. Their planet's resources will serve the Empire well. Indeed, Commander. Their water reserves alone will sustain our homeworld for generations. The Vraxian Empire had been expanding for centuries, consuming world after world, their superior technology and biological adaptability making them nearly unstoppable. Earth, with its abundant resources and strategically valuable position, was merely the next stepping stone in their relentless expansion. And the biomarker issue? Kelthar asked. Resolved, Commander. Our infiltrators maintain perfect human biological signatures. Their redundant organs have been carefully designed to match human scans. Even their primitive medical technology cannot distinguish our people from actual humans. Kelthar turned away from the view screen, satisfied. Begin Phase 2. Establish command centers in each target region. We'll accelerate the timeline. I see no reason to proceed with caution when dealing with such an underdeveloped species. 3 Earth months later, Kelthar was no longer feeling so confident. What do you mean? All infiltrators in the eastern region have been compromised, he demanded, slamming a clawed hand against the situation table. The holographic display flickered momentarily from the impact. Van Lara's posture had changed markedly since their arrival. Her normally proud bearing was now hesitant, almost submissive. Commander, we've lost contact with 17 infiltration cells in the last cycle. The humans are somehow identifying our agents. Impossible, Kelthar hissed. Our genetic engineers assured me the disguises are flawless. How are these primitives detecting us? Unknown, Commander. Before going silent, Cell Leader Dren Mok reported that several humans approached him directly. They knew he wasn't human. They said, she hesitated. Continue, Sub-Commander. They said, we can smell you, Commander. Kelthar's upper eyes narrowed while his lower pair widened, a Vraxian expression of disbelief. Smell. Their olfactory capabilities are inferior to ours by every measure. We specifically engineered our infiltrators to mimic human pheromones precisely. Nevertheless, they're identifying our people somehow. And there's more. Van Lara's voice lowered. They've begun organizing resistance cells, not just identifying our infiltrators, but actively hunting them. Kelthar began pacing the command deck, his claws clicking against the metallic floor. Show me the human resistance structure. The holographic display shifted, showing a complex network spreading across the planet's continents. Red markers indicated compromised Vraxian positions, while blue dots represented confirmed human resistance cells. There were far too many blue dots. This is not possible, Kelthar muttered. We've conquered species far more advanced than humans, species with actual interstellar capabilities and unified planetary governments. How are these fragmented primates organizing so effectively? They're using primitive communication technologies that we initially dismissed as insignificant, Van Lara explained. What they call the Internet and cellular networks. We focused our signal disruption on what we thought were their military bands, but they're coordinating through civilian channels. Kelthar gestured dismissively, then shut down all their communications. We tried, Commander. Their systems are surprisingly redundant and decentralized. When we take down one network, they simply shift to another. For the first time in his long military career, Kelfar felt a twinge of unease. The Vraxian Empire had conquered dozens of worlds, always following the same efficient protocol. Infiltrate, identify key power structures, disable communications, eliminate leadership, and establish control centers. It had never failed before. What of our primary infiltrators in their governance structures? Venlera's mandibles twitched, a sign of extreme distress. Compromised. Commander. All of them. In the last Earth Day, humans have removed 47 of our highest-placed agents from positions of authority. And they've executed them. No, Commander. That's another puzzling aspect. They're not killing our people. They're containing them. For study, Kelfar felt his blood run cold. Containment for study was far worse than execution. If the humans learned the biological secrets of the Vraxians, deploy the secondary invasion force, he ordered. We're accelerating to direct military action. No more subtlety. Commander, our infiltration was only at 30% completion. The Conquest Protocol. I know the protocol, Kelfar snapped. But these humans have somehow bypassed it. We adapt, Sub-Commander. That is how the Empire has survived for 10,000 cycles. Venlera bowed her head. As you command. 2 Earth weeks later, Kelfar stood before the emergency communication array, preparing to do something no Vraxian commander had done in living memory. Request reinforcements. The holographic projection of High Council member Zortak appeared before him, the elder Vraxian's carapace bearing the distinguished scaring of hundreds of successful conquests. Commander Kelfar, your transmission is unexpected. Earth was designated a Class 3 primitive world. Our standard protocols should be more than sufficient. Kelfar lowered his head in the traditional gesture of respect. Esteemed council member, we have encountered complications. Explain. The humans are detecting our infiltrators through means we cannot identify. Our disguises are perfect by all measurable standards, yet they can distinguish our agents from actual humans with alarming accuracy. Zortak's upper eyes narrowed. Have you captured and interrogated humans to determine their methods? We have, council member. Many dozens, but their resistance to our interrogation techniques is remarkable. They die before revealing their methods. And direct military engagement. Kelfar's mandibles clicked in frustration. We've deployed 6 battalion carriers. The humans' military technology is primitive, as expected, but their tactics are unorthodox. They sacrifice their own kind without hesitation to gain tactical advantages. They use their own civilian structures as traps. They've already destroyed 2 of our carriers through methods that can only be described as suicidal. Zortak was silent for a long moment. You're telling me that a species without interstellar travel capability, with primitive projectile weapons and combustion vehicles, is successfully resisting the Imperial fleet? Yes, council member, that is precisely what I'm reporting. Another long silence. There is something you're not understanding, Commander. Find it. The Empire has never failed in a conquest, and yours will not be the first. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving Kelfar staring at empty space. No reinforcements would be coming. The High Council expected him to solve this problem or die in the attempt. Commander, Venlera interrupted his thoughts. We've captured a human scientist, one that the resistance cells appear to value highly. Kelfar turned. Bring them to me. The human was smaller than average, female, with dark skin and eyes that showed no fear despite being in the presence of Vraxian warriors. She wore the white garments that humans associated with scientific work. You have a name? Kelfar asked. Dr. Elena Reyes, she replied calmly. And you're Commander Kelfar of the Vraxian Empire. I recognize the command insignia on your carapace. Kelfar was momentarily taken aback. You know of our kind. A small smile formed on the human's face. We know quite a lot about you now. Your biology is fascinating. especially that redundant organ system you evolved. Very efficient for a species from a high-radiation homeworld. Kelfar moved closer, using his height to intimidate. How are you identifying our infiltrators? Dr. Reyes seemed unimpressed by his physical presence. You really haven't figured it out yet, have you? For such an advanced species, you've made a surprisingly simple oversight. Answer my question, human. Why should I? You're going to kill me anyway, or try to force the information from me. Neither approach will work. She maintained unwavering eye contact. But I'll tell you this much. The answer has been right under your nose the entire time. Before Kelfar could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the command center. Commander, Venlera rushed in. Human forces are breaching the perimeter. They've somehow bypassed our security systems. Dr. Reyes smiled again. Right on schedule. Kelfar stared at the human scientist, suddenly understanding that she had allowed herself to be captured. This wasn't an interrogation. It was a distraction. As explosions rocked the base and the sounds of battle echoed through the corridors, Kelfar realized that the Vraxian Empire might have finally met its match in these supposedly primitive humans. The silent invasion had failed, and now they were fighting for survival on a planet they had expected to conquer with ease. What tiny detail had they overlooked? What simple thing could possibly bring low the mighty Vraxian Empire? The answer, when it finally came, would change everything. The enigma unravels. 6 Earth months into the conflict, the situation had deteriorated beyond anything Kelfar could have imagined. The Vraxian Empire, conqueror of 100 worlds, was losing ground daily to a species that hadn't even colonized its own solar system. Status report, Kelfar demanded, his voice carrying less authority than it once had. The command center was operating at minimal capacity. Many of the stations were unmanned, their operators lost in the increasingly frequent human attacks. We've lost control of the entire western continent, reported Venlera, her once pristine exoskeleton now bearing the scars of close combat. Our remaining forces are concentrated in these 3 regions. The holographic display highlighted small areas in what humans called Asia, Eastern Europe, and Central Africa, and our orbital assets. 4 ships remain operational, Commander. The humans have somehow developed weapons capable of targeting our vessels despite their cloaking systems. Kelfar's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. Impossible. Their technology was assessed as pre-spacefaring. They shouldn't even be able to detect our ships, let alone target them. They're adapting, Commander, learning from every encounter. Venlera hesitated before continuing. There's more. The human scientist, Dr. Reyes, she escaped during the attack on our primary base. I know that, Kelfar snapped. What of it? Our intelligence suggests she's leading a research team. They're developing some kind of biological weapon specifically targeted at our physiology. Kelfar stared at the tactical display, his 4 eyes taking in the grim reality of their situation. How are they learning our biology so quickly? The prisoner containment protocols. We're not designed for a species as creative as humans. Venlera finished. They've been studying our dead, Commander. Every warrior we lose in battle provides them with more data. Across the ocean, in a hastily converted underground laboratory beneath the ruins of what had once been a university campus, Dr. Elena Reyes stood before a room of the world's top scientists and military leaders. It's confirmed, she said, her voice steady despite her exhaustion. The Vraxian infiltrators all lack a specific biological component that every human possesses. It's something their genetic engineers overlooked because they considered it vestigial or unimportant. General Williams, a grizzled veteran who had led the first successful counterattack against the aliens, leaned forward. In plain language, Doctor, what are we looking at? Elena nodded. Bacteria, specifically the microbiome that exists in and on every human body. The Vraxians created perfect anatomical replicas of humans, down to the cellular level, but they didn't replicate our bacterial ecosystem. Their infiltrators are too clean. That's how we've been identifying them, asked a representative from the European coalition, because they don't smell human. In a manner of speaking, yes. Human scent is largely produced by the bacteria living on our skin and in our bodies. The Vraxians mimicked our pheromones, but missed the complex bacterial interactions that create our individual scents. Dogs noticed it first. Military working dogs started reacting to infiltrators. Then specially trained humans could identify them too. "And this is the basis for your weapon?" General Williams asked. Elena moved to a laboratory table where a sealed container held what appeared to be an ordinary aerosol canister. This contains a specially engineered bacteriophage, a virus that attacks bacteria. But this one doesn't target human bacteria. It targets a specific bacteria that exists in all Vraxians. "I thought you said they don't have bacteria," someone interjected. "They don't have our bacteria," Elena clarified, "but they have their own unique microbiome. We identified it from tissue samples. Their redundant organ system relies on a specific bacterial enzyme for regulation. Without it, both systems fail simultaneously." General Williams picked up the canister, weighing it in his hand. "And this will kill them." "Not immediately. It will disable them, painfully. Their primary and secondary cardiovascular systems will begin to compete rather than complement each other. It's like having two hearts suddenly beating out of sync." "How soon can we deploy it?" Elena took a deep breath. "That's the challenge. It needs to be released directly into their environmental systems. Their ships and bases have advanced filtration technology. We need to get this inside their command structure." "A suicide mission," the general stated flatly. "Not necessarily. We've captured enough of their communication technology to potentially infiltrate their systems, but we'd need someone who understands their tech intimately." All eyes in the room turned to the corner, where a figure sat silently observing. Unlike the others, this was not a human, but a Vraxian, one of the few who had defected to the human side early in the conflict. Trelsov had once been a Vraxian engineer before witnessing the brutal efficiency with which his own kind had begun exterminating humans who resisted. Something in his genetic makeup, perhaps a mutation or an evolutionary divergence, had given him what humans might call a conscience. The commander's flagship has 3 primary air circulation nodes, Trelsov said, his voice carrying the distinctive vibration of his species. "Breach any one of them, and your bacteriophage would spread throughout the entire vessel within minutes." "Can you get us in?" General Williams asked directly. Trelsov's mandibles clicked once, a gesture of affirmation. "Yes, but not without risk, and not without casualties." Back in the Vraxian command center, Kelfar received the most disturbing report yet. "Defectors," he hissed, his voice dropping to a dangerous register. "Our kind is joining the humans." Venlara kept her gaze lowered. "A small number, Commander, primarily from the science and engineering castes. This is unprecedented. In 10,000 cycles of conquest, no Vraxian has ever betrayed the Empire." Kelfar's claws dug into the metallic surface of his command chair. "What reason do they give?" "They claim ethical concerns, Commander, about the treatment of sentient species." Kelfar rose abruptly. "Ethics? We are Vraxians. The strong survive. The weak perish. That is the only ethic the universe recognizes." He began pacing, his agitation visible in every movement. "Find these traitors. Make examples of them." "Commander," Venlara said cautiously, "should we perhaps consider withdrawal? The High Council would understand." "The High Council would have us executed for even suggesting retreat." Kelfar roared. "No, we adapt. We overcome. I will not be remembered as the first Vraxian commander to lose a conquest." He gestured to the tactical display. "Reconfigure our remaining forces. Concentrate on these human population centers. If we can't conquer them through infiltration, we'll do it through fear. Begin orbital bombardment of their major cities. Commander, our ships are vulnerable." I know the risks, Sub-Commander, Kelfar cut her off. But the humans cannot resist if they are fighting for survival in the ruins of their civilization. As the orders went out, Kelfar didn't notice Venlura's slight hesitation, nor the quick, almost imperceptible communication she sent using her personal device rather than the command center systems. 12 hours later, as the Vraxian fleet repositioned for the orbital strike, Elena Reyes and a small team that included Trelsov were approaching the flagship in a captured Vraxian shuttle. "They're hailing us," reported one of the human pilots. Trelsov moved to the communication panel. "Allow me." He activated the system and began speaking in the complex clicking language of the Vraxians. After a tense exchange, he turned to the humans. "They're suspicious, but I've convinced them we're returning with critical intelligence about the human resistance. They're granting us emergency docking privileges." Elena clutched the case containing dozens of the bacteriophage canisters. "Will they scan us?" "Yes, but they're looking for weapons and explosives. The bacteriophage will register as ordinary biological material, something common on a returning scout ship." The shuttle approached the massive Vraxian flagship, its sleek, insectoid design reflecting the nature of its creators. As they entered the docking bay, Elena couldn't help but marvel at the technology surrounding them. Technology that should have ensured the Vraxians an easy victory, yet had proven insufficient against human determination and adaptability. "Remember," Trelsov said quietly, "once we release the bacteriophage, we have approximately 10 minutes before the effects begin. The command center is our primary target." The shuttle landed with a soft thud. Through the viewports, they could see Vraxian security forces approaching. "Ready?" Elena asked, looking at each member of the team. They nodded, their faces showing a mix of fear and resolve. This mission could end the war, or end their lives. As the shuttle's hatch opened, Elena found herself face to face with the very species that had come to conquer her world. The irony wasn't lost on her. Humans, the supposed primitives, were now infiltrating the infiltrators. The tiny biological detail overlooked by the mighty Vraxian Empire was about to become the most important factor in the war for Earth.